Hello judges, we are Group 91. Our topic is how to improve the social welfare of migrant workers in Taiwan. From our topic, we can see that the social challenge we want to discuss is migration and multicultural societies. And our research question, as the title says, is how to improve the social welfare of migrant workers in Taiwan. Why is this issue important? First, from the statistics published by the Ministry of Labor, we can see that foreign workers make up 3% of the total population and 7% of the labor force in our country. With the aging population and low birth rates and the shortage of labor in our country, these foreign migrant workers will definitely become a group that cannot be ignored in the future. If they don't have a way to express their needs, in the long term their needs will be disregarded and they will have no sense of belonging. In more serious cases, it may even lead to crime such as drug abuse, suicide, violence. In addition, being able to apply for social assistance is also very important. Migrant workers also pay taxes, but little assistance is given. This is unfair to them. Besides, the personal safety of migrant workers also needs to be valued. It is also very essential to let them have a way to effectively ask for help when they are abused, fall into scam, come across an accident. Therefore, we decided to study this topic.
Currently, the problem will be mentioned above also have way to be solved. There are units in our country that investigate migrant workers' issue, but they only take action after receiving a report. Migrant workers can call the 1995 hotline to ask the government for help or seek help from NGOs. But is that enough for migrant workers? Next, we will introduce the two policies we designed. In our design policies, not only foreign migrant workers but also citizens from Taiwan will be affected. The first policy is divided into three parts. First, we will let foreign migrant workers obtain local voting rights as long as they meet the following conditions. They can actively apply to the government for voting. Our conditions are as follows: at least 30 years old and have worked in the voting city or country for last 2 years. No bad behavior and no criminal record. Hold a legal resident permit or work permit. In local residents, they only obtain the right to vote on local affairs related to migrant workers. In local political election, they can only vote for the mayor, city councilor, but not for legislature, because it involves lawmaking. Next, we will let migrant workers have the right and connect to apply for social assistance, as long as they have worked in our country for at least 6 months, have no bad record, have paid taxes, and have labor insurance or health insurance payment records, and hold a legal residence permit or work permit. They can apply for assistance for involuntary unemployment, major medical subsidy, natural disaster, and so on. Finally, we will set up a special unit for migrant worker affairs. This unit will regularly send the staff to visit some migrant workers to investigate their work and living problems and publish investigation reports. At the same time, it will regularly make suggestions to the government to improve the living conditions of foreign migrant workers. In addition, a special website will be set up to allow foreign migrant workers to file complaints and fill in their needs, replacing the current way of complaining by phone, which can avoid being unable to ask for help because the line is busy or language barrier. Also, it will regularly hold public hearings related to migrant worker affairs. Migrant workers professionals and related government departments will be invited to participate, and it will also be open for on-site listening and live broadcast. In the public hearing, migrant workers can directly raise their needs or questions. Experts and the government can explain on the spot and quickly solve the problems. At the same time, they can also explain the connect of refugees to migrant workers.
Next, we will talk about the second policy, which is also divided into three parts. The first part is the same as Policy 1, which is voting rights. The second part is to set up a Migrant Worker Development and Protection Fund. It will be collected once a month, and the amount will be 3 to 6% of the migrant workers' income. The specific percentage will be flexibly adjusted according to the remaining amount of the fund. This amount will be shared by the government, agencies, employers, and migrant workers. The fund received will be used to promote migrant workers' affairs. At the same time, it will also provide emergency assistance, major medical subsidies, or temporary living support when migrant workers are unemployed. The third part is to require intermediary agencies to set up an internal support window for migrant workers, helping them solve difficulties in daily life. The agencies must report to the government every 6 months on how the support window is operating, including the cases they have handled and the challenges they have encountered.
Next, we will analyze the advantages and disadvantages of the two policies. First is Policy 1. The advantage of having voting rights is that participating in voting can create a sense of belonging to Taiwan, and it also allows migrant workers to have the opportunity to express their needs, avoid being excluded by the society, and the disadvantage is that it needs to go through law revision, while the procedure is complicated and it may easily cause disputes among citizens. The advantage of applying for assistance is that migrant workers can ask for help when facing major difficulties and will not be isolated and helpless and suffer threats or abuse. The disadvantage is that it may squeeze the welfare budget of local citizens and harm citizens' rights. Citizens who are not related to migrant workers must share the assistance budget for migrant workers and may need to pay more taxes, which increases the economic burden. The advantage of the special need is that it can directly understand the living conditions of migrant workers and prevent employers and agencies from secretly exploiting or abusing them. Regular suggestion can effectively urge all parties to pay attention to and protect migrant workers. Finally, migrant workers can quickly get help through the website and avoid being unable to ask for help because the phone line is busy or language barrier. In addition, holding public hearings can let the government directly and quickly understand the needs of migrant workers and exclude them in policy considerations. And migrant workers can have a channel to quickly, openly communicate with the government to express their needs and opinions. The disadvantage is that it will increase labor costs, and using sampling surveys may miss some migrant workers in need. In addition, some migrant workers may not have the ability to apply for help online. Next is Policy 2. The voting rights part is the same as before. The advantage of setting up the Development and Protection Fund is that it can avoid using the government's original budget for other purposes and can have enough budget to promote migrant workers' affairs and improve migrant workers' welfare. The disadvantage is that it will increase the economic burden of government, intermediary, employers, and migrant workers. The advantage of requiring intermediary agencies to set up an internal support window for migrant workers is that workers can immediately seek help for someone they are familiar with when they have a need. In addition, intermediaries can usually respond quickly, allowing migrant workers to receive assistance in a timely manner. However, the disadvantage is that migrant workers may be afraid to ask for help if their problems is related to the company or employers. Moreover, intermediary agencies might misreport the facts of certain cases, making it difficult to understand the workers' real difficulties. Finally, after analyzing the advantages and disadvantages, we chose Policy 1 as the policy we will promote. First, we will grant voting rights to qualified migrant workers, allowing them to participate in decisions related to their own affairs and to express their opinions. Next, both policies provide ways to help migrant workers receive financial support. However, compared to Policy 2, which sets up a special fund, Policy 1 uses money directly from the government's existing budget. This will be less likely to increase the burden on employers and migrant workers. Finally, Policy 1 is fully led by the government, with a stricter and more complex system. The information collected can be directly used in policy making, and the government can respond to migrant workers' questions directly. Although Policy 2 allows intermediaries to quickly identify workers' needs, reports are only submitted regularly and may even be inaccurate, making it harder to ensure those needs are properly addressed. Therefore, after comparing the two, Policy 1, which is led by the government, can better achieve our goal of helping migrant workers. In conclusion, we believe that Policy 1 is the better choice. So, these are all we want to share to you. Thanks for listening.